Hello! So today I thought it would be nice to do a video on my vintage dresses because I recently bought 2 more and I'm like really excited. I finally got the whole collection all together because before I had like some that I brought to school with me and some that I kept at home. I brought all of my vintage stuff home, and so now I can, have the whole collection all together and I can make a video about it. The time periods that I have clothes from range from, I believe, like the 50s all the way to like the late 90s, which is still before I was born, and it's technically vintage now, which is weird. I feel like the 90s is like kind of iffy. I feel like that shouldn't be vintage, but it is now. So I do have some 90s things. And also, just a disclaimer, I am not a fashion historian or fashion person. I don't know anything about fashion. I just think they're really pretty, and I do wear them every once in a while, but they mostly just sit in the closet and then I just have them, and it's nice to know that I have them. And I also have a couple of things that aren't dresses. I have like 1 pair of pants, a skirt, and like a couple of blazers, but we're still gonna count them in the vintage dress collection because it is mostly dresses. So without further ado, I'll cut to me in my hallway. So I'm gonna start off with this dress. I believe this is the oldest one that I own. It doesn't have a tag or anything, but to me it seems like it might be from the 50s. It's a little bit stained. It's a little bit, worn. This side over here has like a little bit of a tear. I love the neckline here and like how it goes like that. And I also love the shoulders, how they sort of like pop out like that. I don't know, I think it's so cool. The back is like pretty plain. I really love like the shape of the dress, which is why I bought it, even though it's like a little bit stained, a little bit old, a little bit used. Normally I like try to look for things that are in really good condition, but it's not the like best dress that I own, but I don't know, I thought it was like super cute. So this next dress is like a light minty green, and it's in really great condition. I think I saw like 1 stain on one of the sleeves. This one is also from the 50s. This one is confirmed by a tag that I got from the store, and it is a very different style than the other one, but it's still super cute and I love it. It's got this really great pattern on it. It's like a really subtle pattern. It's just got these like little white diamonds all over it. And then also around each of the little diamonds, there's, I don't know if you can even see it because it's kind of dark in here. There's like a really faint white line that sort of outlines each section with a diamond in it. And then it also has these pleats that probably used to go all the way down, like, evenly. It doesn't do that anymore, but that's fine. So I did get the last button buttoned, this one up here, and then it also has these 2 buttons here that you like, button the collar down to, but before I just had it like open, and that looked fine too. And this pocket is actually like kind of a big pocket, like you could actually put stuff in there, which is really great. I love functional pockets. This dress is really great. I love the sleeves. These buttons are actually fake, and this one also doesn't do anything, but all these ones are real buttons that actually button things, and all the buttons are still on it, which is also really great. Like oftentimes there's like buttons missing, and it's just like kind of hard to spend money on something that the button is missing. This one actually has a belt that's missing. There's the belt loops, but even though there isn't a belt, the belt loops aren't that obvious. Sometimes the belt loops are super obvious, but these ones aren't really. So I don't find not having the belt like a major issue. And then the back is just like the piece of fabric at the top with like the cinching that comes downwards, just sort of like a dress shirt. So this dress is actually kind of interesting. I got it at a vintage shop, and the tag from the shop said that the dress was from the 70s, but after double checking the union label that is in it, this is actually the first dress that I've tried on so far in this video that actually has a useful label. So the union label that this one has on it is actually from 1955 to 1963, which means that it had to have been made between those years. Also, if I compare to the other 50s dress that I have, I noticed some similarities. So one of the details that I want to mention in this dress and also the other 2 50s dresses, this is also what sort of made me classify the one that has no tag and had no information with it as a 50s dress. I don't know if you can see here, but there's a zipper on the side, and it goes from like right under the armpit down to the hip. And that's it. That's the only zipper that's on the dress. And so the other two also have this zipper where basically you unzip right here, and then you put the dress over your head, and then you just zip this part back up. And then that works because this part here is looser, and so you can get this part over your shoulders easily. And I actually really love this side zipper. I'm like so mad that we don't do this anymore because this is so much easier to zip than like the full back zipper. And then also this one, of course, as you can probably see, has a belt. The belt is actually really interesting. I don't know if you can tell, but it's just like it's like very round. It's not flat like a regular belt, and it's also not like a ribbon. I feel like most dress belts are either like regular belts or like ribbons. But this one is just like a round piece of fabric. You might be able to tell better from like the end part. Like that's what the end of it looks like. And it's like kind of stiff. Like the bow that I tied it in looks like that because it didn't really like, you know, flop down like most belts usually do. And while I'm here, I'll show off like the pattern a little bit. I think this pattern is like so cool, and because it's so like, I don't know, weird and trippy kind of, I feel like that's probably why the store like thought that it was from the 70s. And I love this right here. These are all fake buttons, but just like layers. Like there's this one that's like the longest layer, and then it's got this one on top of it, and then this one on top. And then the collar also has that hot pink and also kind of a yellowish color. I can't really tell if that is meant to be like that or if that's just faded. It also does have some like fading around here where there's a seam, but overall it's in really good condition. I haven't noticed any like tears or anything. It's kind of hard to breathe in this one too. This one's like kind of tight on me, so sorry if I sound like I'm out of breath because I just can't breathe in this dress. I just want to like draw attention to the intricacy of the pattern that's on this dress. I think this is so awesome. At first you think it's just those shapes, but then if you look inside the shapes, they all have their own, you know, intricate design on them too. And it's just kind of fun to like follow like where the pattern goes. And yeah, and the color scheme is like so weird. Like the majority of the dress is just this really muted color, and then it's got this like really crazy hot pink that is just sort of like an accent. I don't know. This might be like my favorite one of all the vintage dresses because it's just like, it's so weird. There's so much going on. If you stand back, it just kind of looks like a normal, like regular dress. This is the next one. I believe the store said that it was from the 60s, and it's purple, and it's got this really great pattern on it. I'll do a close-up in a minute. The sleeves are a little bit short on me because people used to be shorter back in the day. I'm 5'9" for reference, so you know, things do tend to be short on me. I still liked it. I really like the bodice part of it. Again, I'll come closer to show the details, but it's got like this collar on it, and then it's got these fake buttons. The back has got the zipper like all the way down the back. So this is the bodice. The fabric is just sort of layered on top of itself, sewed down on the end of each layer. So it sort of cuts this design into a different version of the same design. And this is the pattern. I think it's so pretty. It kind of looks like it should have a belt, but I don't think it does. It's got a very small hole right there, but other than that, it's in really great condition. And then I also really love just the color of it overall, like this dark, like pinkish purple. All right, so before I change, I want to show the other 60s dress that I have. This is actually the first vintage dress that I ever got. I'm not wearing it because although it does fit me, I think it fit me like 4 years ago, and I don't think I've changed that much in 4 years, but I unfortunately like ripped part of the mesh on it. It's really cool. This part down here is like kind of silky, and this is just like a mesh. It's just kind of like this really thin sort of crepe paper looking fabric, and then it's got this part here that comes up underneath it and covers the rest of your body. But it's so beautiful, like this pattern here. This is really great floral, and this belt thing is attached, and then you just sort of hook it in the back. It's got little clasps on it. Don't know if it focused on the clasps. And then it sort of brings the pattern up again on the collar. I don't know. I love this dress so much and I'm so sad that I ripped it because it's so beautiful. So this next dress is, I believe, from the 70s. I don't really know. The Union label that's on it is from like 1965 all the way through 1992, I think. But I want to say 70s. Again, like the other one that I had, the sleeves are too short on me, but that's okay. It's got a front zipper on it, which is really weird. I don't have any other dresses, even modern dresses, I don't think, that have a front zipper. I know they exist, but this is the only one that I have that has a front zipper. It's got this like super pointy collar, which also makes me think 70s for some reason. I don't know why. And then there's this pattern, of course. I guess I have a thing for weird patterns. It's got sort of this combination of like a floral there and then just these like weird lines and weird dashes. Like up here is like completely different from these lines down here. And I had someone tell me this looks like Morse code. But other than that, it's like, it's black, it's got a belt. I decided to tie the belt in the front. I don't know if it would have been tied in the front or in the back. And then the other thing that I thought was super cool about this dress is these belt loops. It's got regular like thread belt loops over here. And there's another one on the other side. They look like they're brass or something. I don't know. They're kind of tarnished and old, but I thought they were super cool. And they just sort of like give a nice accent to the dress. And it is a little bit big on me also. The sleeves are too short for me, but like in here, like it's a little too big for me, but I still wear it anyway because I think it's so cool. And I love the pattern on it. Like the color scheme of it too is just like so out there and weird. I thought this was such a weird dress, and so I just had to get it. And this one I actually didn't get from a vintage shop. This one's from just a normal thrift store, so you don't have to go to a vintage shop to find vintage dresses. So for my next dress, this one here, it's my shortest dress so far. According to the label on this dress, it was made sometime in the 80s. Like the style of label was most common in the 80s. It's got pretty much the exact same like neckline on the front and on the back, which is a little weird, but I don't know, I thought it was kind of cool. And then it's got a belt. I don't know if you can even see the belt. It's got this pattern, which is like super simple. It's just got these like white diagonal lines on the black dress, and then the belt has the same pattern. And this is just sort of like a little folded up piece of fabric. And this one doesn't have any sort of like zipper or buttoning or anything. It just like slips right on, which is kind of nice. It's like a pretty simple design, but I don't know, I thought it was cool. Okay, so before I take off my 80s dress, I'm gonna put on two blazers that I believe are also from the 80s, judging by the massive shoulder pads in them. So here's the first one. And also neither of them match the dress at all, but I'm just gonna wear them over top of it anyway, just for, you know, demonstration purposes. So this is the first one. The silhouette is like kind of crazy with the shoulder pads, but I thought this was so cool. I'm gonna get a little closer. So this is the pattern on the blazer. It's this really nice floral design. It's like navy blue. And then it also has these like buttons on it. I don't know if you can even tell that they're there. They don't actually button together, but there's like just a row of buttons on either side. And then it doesn't like close or anything. It just sort of stays open like that, I guess. And the Goodwill tag looks so cute. Probably never gonna wear these ever, but I just like, I couldn't just leave it there. You know what I mean? All right, now here's the second one. This one's even crazier than the other one. The shoulder pads are even bigger. The shoulders are even poofier. I look like Michael Jackson. The pattern on it is actually kind of similar to the other one. It's got this like really great floral pattern on it, but it's a little bit longer. The other one was sort of like a cropped jacket thing. And these buttons, oh my god, these buttons are so crazy. All the buttons are still on it, and there's actually like buttonholes on this side. You can actually button up the blazer, and then it's like kind of velvety, and then the colors just feel like little drops of paint or something on top of the velvet because they're like much stiffer. They're not like soft like the rest of the velvet. And then if you look like in the flower and stuff, all the coloration is just kind of like little dots or like lines and stuff like that. And the lines here are like really metallic gold. It's so cool. And then I'll also show the shoulder. So it's got this like poofy part here too, like on top of the shoulder pad that's in here. It's like also poofy. This is another thing where like it doesn't make any sense. I'll never wear it, but I had to get it. I couldn't leave it there. There's a lot going on with this dress. So from some Googling, it seems like it's like early to mid 90s, but like from how old and worn the tag seems, I want to say early 90s. I don't know where to wear this to. I wore it to like dinner with my friends one time, but it's so weird. So I'll show the details. This one has a V-shaped waistline, which is like kind of weird. It kind of gives me like ball gown vibes. And then it's also got like this neckline here is kind of cool. And then the sleeves here, I can't lift my arms further than this. And then in the sleeves, there's also these. The way that they're attached kind of makes it seem like they're meant to lay flat inside the sleeves there, but they also kind of stand up like this. They don't fall down completely, so I'm not really sure if they're meant to be there or if they're just meant to like hang the dress. I don't know, they look a little bit too fancy to just be hangers, but also they might be. I'm not sure. Obviously it's got this floral pattern, and then also these seams right here are not just seams, they also have like, I don't know if you can hear that. It's got like a wire in it that goes all the way like up here to the top of the neckline. I found this one at like a flea market or something. So this dress, I think I googled the brand like a while ago and it said that it was from like the mid 90s or something. I'll stand on my tippy toes. That's how long it is. It's almost down to the ankles. If I was a little bit shorter, it probably would be. It's like kind of shapeless. It just sort of like goes straight down. It has some slits on the side so you can still move your feet around. And then I'll show the pattern. It's a super simple pattern, but like really bold at the same time because it's just these like super huge flowers. It's also on like a navy blue dress. I don't know if you can tell that it's navy blue and not black. I usually wear yellow shoes with it to match this flower right here. This is probably the vintage dress that I wear the most often. I actually think this might be the only one that I've worn more than once because it's just like a super practical casual dress that you can wear in like the spring or the summer. It has like ventilation in it because it's not super like tight or anything, so it's super comfy, and I don't know, I just love this dress so much. So this is not a dress, this is just a skirt. According to the vintage shop that I got it from, is vintage J. Crew, but the tag doesn't look super old. I have no idea like when it could be from. It's probably just like late 90s or something. It's like a wool skirt. It's super warm and soft, and it's just sort of like your regular pencil skirt, like for the office or something. I don't know. It's just pencil skirt. There's nothing too special about it. All right, so this is my last dress. This one is from the late 90s. It's just sort of like a silky little black dress. I really wanted a dress like this, but I just could not find one for so long. I eventually found this one on Depop. One of the things that sort of made it unique were these straps. So it's got like two straps. There's sort of like, you know, the one that's a normal strap, and then it's also got this more V-shaped strap in the middle. But yeah, that's really all there is to this dress. It's really like not a big deal. It's got this nice scoop neck. I don't know. It's like pretty simple, but that's exactly what I wanted. I just wanted a dress like this. All of the vintage clothes that I found were either from physical vintage stores, thrift stores, just like Goodwill and stuff, or like online, like on an online thrift store, but never an online vintage store. And a lot of times the vintage stores will charge a lot of money. Like for some reason, you know, a couple of years ago, my Instagram explore page just kept showing me Butch Wax Vintage, which is like an online vintage shop, and they, you know, operate a lot through Instagram, and I thought the dresses were so pretty. I never really looked up the prices of them because I was never gonna like get them, but I just had a feeling that they were expensive. And eventually later, after going to some other vintage shops, I finally looked at their prices. I was like, how much is this stuff actually? And they were all like $400, $500 for a dress. I went to an actual vintage shop and most of the dresses were like $15 to $25 depending on, you know, how old they were, the condition, and then also like how fancy they were. If they were a more formal like gown or, you know, an evening dress or something like that, then of course they'd be more expensive because, you know, those kind of dresses are always more expensive than everyday dresses. But if you're buying just like an everyday normal dress, should be like $15 to $25. The first one that I tried on though was like kind of, you know, worn, it's like a little bit faded, and so that one was $12. And so, because like at the end of the day, it's like really old used clothes. And so, like, you know, if it belongs in a museum, then yeah, it makes sense for it to be more expensive. And the other thing too would be like if it was made by like a well-known designer or something. The other thing too is like sometimes dresses will be like a set where it's like a dress with like a little jacket or like a blazer or like a shawl or something that comes over it that like matches the dress. Sometimes you'll get like sets like that, and if the set comes together, then you know that's much more valuable too. And so that might be like $45, $65 depending on, you know, the material, how old it is, how good the condition is, and also just like how nice the dress is. And the other thing too is if you have proof that it was owned by somebody famous, if it was owned by like somebody who was like from the nobility or from royalty or something, like that totally makes sense that it would be more expensive because you're also paying for like the historical value of the garment. But lots of times it's just a regular dress and it should cost what a regular dress costs, you know what I mean? If it's just a regular old dress, it should not be that much money. And I just want anyone who sees this video and is interested in buying vintage clothes to know, if you just look up vintage clothes online and they're asking for like more than $30 for a normal everyday dress, that's ridiculous. That's sort of like my hot take, is that vintage clothing shouldn't be very expensive, and usually it's not if you go to the right places. And I just wanted to like share that little piece of information, because if I had just gone to the first vintage shop I had ever seen, which was that online shop that was super expensive, I would have thought like I could never afford vintage clothing. That's all I have for today. Thank you for watching.